Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing great. For those of you new to the channel, this is the channel for you in case you are working on Adobe Marketing Cloud or Customer Data Platform or Tag Managers, right? Please subscribe if you haven't already done that. I would appreciate it very much. A lot of effort goes into making these videos and a little motivation will really be helpful. Today's topic is profile or recommendation attributes, how to send these attributes to Adobe Target with AEP Web SDK or Edge Network Server API. So let's get started. As you can see, this is an activity with profile attribute as the audience. The test profile is the audience and the definition is also there. The definition is very simple. Gender contains female, right? And mind you, this is the visitor profile, right? So that's how it is. Very simple. So first we are going to discuss how to do it with AEP Web SDK, right? How to send the profile or recommendation attributes with the Web SDK to Adobe Target. So as you can see on the screen that the first step to creating profile attributes and sending them to Adobe Target using Web SDK is that you define a data element called data.content. Mind you, the data element's name has to be always the same. It will always be data.content. Okay. And then it's a custom code, right? And then inside the custom code, we have defined data in the given JSON structure. The JSON structure will also remain the same. Everything remains the same except the attributes that you define inside the JSON structure. So for example, we have defined the audience based on gender attribute. So that's why we are saying profile.gender contains female here. Now you can have multiple attributes here inside this JSON structure. You can also send recommendation attributes in the same structure. So you can have, entity.id is equal to 1, 2, 3, right? Just as shown in the screen. You can separate these multiple attributes by commas, but very importantly, the first thing that you have to do in the launch web SDK is you go ahead and create a data element with name as data.content and then define the custom code just as shown in the screen here. Everything remains the same. The attributes is something that will be specific to your use cases, and you can define the different attributes separated by commas, right? Then the second step is that you go ahead and create your page load rule or edit your page load rule, right? Now in the page load rule, as you can see on the screen, it's the global page load rule, right? Whatever you would have defined here. And then you see at the sent event configuration. So in the sent event configuration, you have the instance, you have the type, and then you have the XDM data object here you define, and then you define data. So here you will define the data element that references this data object. So we have defined person data.content, right? So this is how it works. Like first you create the data element with data.content, and then second you go to your page load rule and reference this data element in the data section of your page load rule. So we saw the activity with that audience, right? Now we will see how does the console response look like. So what we did was, as part of the activity, we printed to the console Adobe Support Experience B, right? As you can see in the screenshot. And that is what it is printing to the console in the first part of the screenshot. You can see it's Adobe Support Experience being printed to the console. So that is what was there in our activity itself. The second part to the first screenshot is that we have enabled this debug in the debugger, right? So it's, printing everything here. And as you can see, this it's giving us the send event response here. So it's returning a propositions array Now the propositions array contains the activity ID and then the items array. As you can see inside the items array, the data part where you can see the same content console.log, right, which is also getting printed to the console itself, right? And we can see the same in the activity configuration also. And then you have the meta part. So meta part has all your response tokens. So you have activity ID, activity name, experience name. As you can see, experience name is experience B, which is the same as you can see in the activity configuration. And then you also have the profile parameter. So profile.gender is female, right? So this is what we had configured in our audience itself, right? So, and this is what we were passing to Adobe Target as well using launch. So this is how the entire story works. First, you create an activity, you create a profile based audience, right? And you create an activity using that profile based audience. Then second part is you go to launch and create a data element with data.content name, send the relevant attributes, profile recommendation attributes as part of that, and then you reference that data element in your page load rule in the data section. And then when you will qualify for the segment and you will run that activity, you will see that the appropriate response, appropriate behavior you can see, right? And if you look at the response tokens for that activity, you will see the appropriate values also for that, right? In case you have enabled the response token for the profile parameter, right? So this is how it will work with Web SDK. So now we will look at the Edge API method for sending these attributes, profile or recommendation to Adobe Target. So we have talked about Edge API request and responses in another video, and that link is there in the description. You can go to that video to learn about Edge API, how to interact with Adobe solutions using Edge API, right? And here in this screen, now we'll just talk about how do we send this profile or recommendation attributes using Edge API request. So as you can see here, we have defined the data as just in the same JSON structure that we saw with Adobe Web SDK, right? So here the same JSON structure and the profile.gender is female, everything exactly the same, but that data part has to be part of your Edge API request, as you can see in the screen here, right? And similarly to profile attributes, you can also send recommendation attributes defined in the same structure, like entity.id is 1, 2, 3, right? And you can define multiple attributes in the structure separated by commas. So this is how it works. This is how the request looks like, right? Now let's look at the responses. So here, first of all, we can see the negative scenario, right? So in the negative scenario, you can see that when we send a value that doesn't match the audience definition for the profile parameter, then in that case, you will see that the payload is an empty array, right? So as you can see here in the highlighted section, the type is personalization decisions, but the payload is an empty array. And we have passed the value of male for profile.gender, whereas the audience definition was female, right? So this is how the negative scenario, if you don't pass the profile parameter or you pass a false value that doesn't match the audience definition, the payload will be an empty array. In the positive scenario, when the value matches the audience definition, you will see that in the payload, the activity ID, scope, and scope details are being returned. So this is how it works for Edge API, right? Once you have created a profile-based audience and used it in an activity, you will pass the appropriate values for profile parameter in the given JSON structure that we saw in the Edge API request, and then based on if the value matches, right, you will get the appropriate response for the activity. So this is all that I wanted to share for this, and happy learning everyone. Let me know in the comment section if there are any questions and I can address them on. Do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.